Okay. Okay. Again, is greetings from Dublin. Today, this is the third presentation of third sharing session of Success Story Forum. So we have members from people from different parts of the world joining here. So welcome everyone. For the first sharing session is by Muhammad Sarif Haq. Dr. Muhammad Sarif Haq is Executive Director of East West University Center for Research and Training and Professor at Department of English, East West University. He has published numerous scholarly articles and co-edited 3 books: Prostitution, Women, Society, State and Law, 1997, Constructing Identities in the Malaysian Media, 2008, English Studies and the Marketplace, 2018. Furthermore, he is editor of the peer-reviewed East-West Journal of Humanities, as well as producer and assistant director of the documentary film Life After Grey, 2015. His research interests include critical discourse analysis, film and media studies, teacher education, educational technology, and photojournalism. So he will be presenting on pronunciation problems, try the tissue technique. This is his success story. So he'll be presenting on that. Before requesting Dr. Sahariar, sorry if I've mispronounced your name, I would like to request Amin to chair this session. Our format of presentation will be the same as we had last time, as we are having. So yeah, over to Dr. Shahriar.
Shahriar.
Sorry,
Okay, yeah. But I can't see him. Why is it that on my screen?
No.
Now you can see me.
Now
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the introduction. How many minutes will we get?
20.
20 minutes. Okay. Okay. Suppose you have a scenario where a job applicant walks into an interview board, and then he walks in and he says, "May I sit down, chair?" Okay, may I sit down, chair? Now his CGPA might be good, but if this is a customer relation job, before his interview began, it might be over. Because if I'm an employer of a customer relation job and I want someone who can speak or show his or her smartness through his speech, and if someone says, "May I sit down, chair?" I don't care what his CGPA is. If you look at 1,000 recruitment advertisements, you'll see that in less than 5% or even less, the CGPA will be mentioned. So if you have average CGPA, it doesn't matter. If you have, say, 3.97 out of 4, and you can't speak properly, you're in trouble. If you're looking for a white-collar job, you are in trouble. Anyway, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, okay, I'll ask a couple of questions. I'll begin with a couple of questions because most of you are teachers. So do you want learners to be intelligible in public speaking situation?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you want learners to do well in their academic and recruitment viva or interview?
Yes.
And do you want to prevent learners from being victims of linguistic discrimination?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if the answer is yes to all those questions, then you better teach them good pronunciation. Not good pronunciation, good pronunciation. Good pronunciation. Too often I've seen even teachers, university teachers, say that today we're going to teach you pronunciation, which is incorrect. You pronounce, but the word pronunciation doesn't have noun in it. If a teacher comes in and says that we're going to learn pronunciation, my belief in that teacher is gone from the very beginning. So what do I mean by good pronunciation? I don't mean American accent or British accent, because some people tend to think, oh, if you speak in American accent, that's good English. If you speak in British English, that is good English as well. But if you look at other native speaking situations, you don't have them being documented in dictionaries. If you look at a dictionary, open up a dictionary, you'll see that, okay, the American version is there and the British version is there. Where's the Australian version? They speak native English. Where's the Irish version? They speak native English. So the thing is, it's not about American or British accent or English in that sense. In fact, if you think of, say, English being spoken in America, there are places where you will not understand their English. For instance, if you think of David Beckham, at one time when he led the England team, he was the most famous sports person alive. I mean, he's still alive, of course, but even though his skills are not that brilliant, but he was the most famous sports person. If you listen to his English, you'll see that the pronunciation is all over the place, and his grammar is also all over the place as well, because he's not an educated man in that sense. He obviously attained world-class fame, but he's from England. So what about his English? So you can't just assume that all native speakers speak good English, just like all Bangladeshis don't speak good Bangla. I mean, if I spoke in Bangla right now, my grammar and my pronunciation would be all over the place, because I'm actually from English medium background, and I didn't emphasize on my Bangla at all before. And because of lack of my Bangla, I couldn't apply to for many jobs. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, just because someone is from a native country doesn't mean to say his or her native language will be flawless. So you have to learn this. So when I mean good English, I mean mutual intelligibility. Mutual intelligibility. If you speak in English and other people can understand you without miscommunication or without laughing at you, that's desirable English to a certain extent. To a certain extent, IPA can help you attain mutual intelligibility. IPA meaning International Phonetic Alphabet, because it provides a system. Without system, it's difficult to learn. And that system is more or less understood everywhere around the world, because you can find that system in dictionaries, and you can also Google the symbols up, and then you can get to hear the pronunciation, and then you can try to replicate that. So again, you're not replicating British English or American English, just English that can be understood by others without them laughing at you. Because when I said, may I chit down char, people understood, there's no problem. There's no problem. But people would probably laugh. But if I said, if someone asked, I asked the question, where did you go for during the weekend? And someone says, I went to the beach. I went to the beach. Now, in this case, that's a perfectly grammatical sentence. But what I understood is not what that person meant. I understood that you went to the beach, meaning you went to someone you don't like, because the beach here is not the denotative meaning. That's a female dog. It means someone you don't like. But that person did not want to mean that. That person meant that I went to the sea beach. In my country, it would be Cox's Bazar in that sense. So that's what that person meant. But I understood that person went to someone who he or she doesn't like. So in this case, there's miscommunication because of mispronunciation. That person wanted to say beach, but said pitch. Same thing with, I hear this constantly, say in the office, give me that shit. Again, SHIT has a different meaning. Give me that sheet or sheet of paper. Now, if you don't like what's on that piece of paper, then you might say, okay, give me that shit, and you literally mean that. But that's a different thing. But again, mispronunciation can give, can lead to miscommunication. So IPA can help. And if you don't know the pronunciation or the sounds of certain alphabets, it doesn't matter. You can just Google them up and type IPA sounds, and you get the sounds. And you also get the symbols as well. Now, the other problem that we have is when you speak from one language to another, you switch interlanguage. So interlanguage causes problems, particularly when the sounds of one language are not same as the sounds of another language. Now, in terms of Bangla, there are some sounds that are similar to the English sounds, but not exact. Not exact. So in this case, along with the IPA, I mean, I came up with the tissue technique, and it doesn't focus on all the sounds that are not similar, only a couple of them. Not a couple of them, around 3 of them, basically, 3 to 6 in that sense. So I was told, obviously, that if we had videos, we could upload. So instead of making the video, I will demonstrate that to you today. The tissue technique, you can try it out in your own language. If it's applicable, you can also try it out, based on repetition, based on experimentation or exploring the technique. So first of all, for this technique, you need to find the right kind of tissue. And it doesn't mean a toilet tissue. It doesn't mean a napkin. It means a facial tissue, the lightest one you can find. Okay, something like this. And usually, this. And if you look at this tissue, this is very soft. Furthermore, not only is it soft because it's supposed to be for your face, it also has 2 layers. 2 layers. So take away 1 layer, now this becomes even lighter. Hold on, I'm turning off my AC because I need so, okay. So that's number 1. And then you need to find the position, the different positions where you'll place the tissue for this tissue technique to work. So I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. And you need to find the right distance, the right height to place the tissue from your mouth in order to get maximum effect. And then you need to find the right words or tongue twisters to practice this. And after that, it's just a matter of practice, practice, and practice. So first of all, the right kind of tissue, the position, then this finding the position could be time consuming. And then you need set of words to help you with the problematic sounds. So the sounds that I'll be focusing are the paba, that means, in terms of IPA, pa and ba, paba, then ta and da, tada, and then ka and ga, kaga, these sounds. Now the pa, the ba, and the ta, pa, the ka and the ta are not exactly in Bangla. We have po, which is not same as pa. Similar, but it's not the same. And I'll show you the difference when I use the tissue technique. Then we have ta in English, but in Bangla we have to, so it's not ta, slight difference. And then you have the ka in English, which is again slightly different from the Bangla, which is ka. So it's not so forceful. So I need to find enough words and maybe tongue twisters related to these sounds so that my learners can practice these using the tissue technique. And you need to practice enough so that it becomes second nature. If you only practice for exams or other things, then it's not going to be enough. So practice, 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 so it becomes second nature, and you utter the words correctly without even thinking. So that is very important. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate. Okay, I'll switch off the sharing mode.
Hello, you have got 5 minutes left.
Yeah, that'll be enough. Okay. Okay. So can you see this? Now, if in Bangla, if I utter say a sentence, okay, before sentence maybe a word. In Bangla, we would say picture, picture, pen. Okay, so the tissue does not move. In English, picture, picture, pen, picnic. So you see the difference between paw, pen, picture, picnic, and pen, picture, picnic. So that's the slight difference. And then, so for the pa, you can raise it quite high. Then you've got ka, you have to lower it down, because based on the placement of your tongue, the air comes out at a slightly different angle. So if I say kitchen, computer, ketchup, you see again, the tissue does not move. But if I say kitchen, computer, ketchup, you see, again it moves. So again, the difference between ka, Bangla alphabet ka, and ka, ka. Okay, now if I say in Bangla, to or taxi or taka, again it doesn't move. Or teacher, but in English, teacher, taxi, tea, it moves. So again, the forceful air is coming out. So so that is at the sentence level. Now, if I say in Bangla, pakhi, paka, pepe, khai, there's hardly any movement. Pakhi, paka, pepe, khai. Now in English, if I say Peter, piper, picked, a peck, a pickled, pepper. So every pa sound, you get a movement. So basically, that's the tissue technique. And I usually get my students to practice this and also record their video and then send them and upload them on Google Classroom. And based on that, I can at least see the difference between the Bangla sounds and the English sound. Again, in this case, saying picture instead of picture is not a great sin. Not like yet char or chit down. It's not a great sin like that. But still, if you want to be, kind of recognized based on your speaking, and that is very important, because in any interview situation, that is very important in order for you to get the job, especially if it's a customer related job where your voice matters a lot, whether it's Bangla, English, or any language. So in that case, even the slight difference is very important. And it's the slight differences that I'm focusing on in order to in order to remedy those slight differences by using the tissue technique. So that's about it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Shahryar, for a wonderful talk. You touched on very important matters. You touched on IPA. And one thing I liked about it, pronunciation, practice, 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 4 Ps, okay? And also this tissue technique is very similar. You'll find it in Professor Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady. He uses not a tissue, but he uses a candle, and you talk in front of the candle and the candle blows off. And he has a sentence, hurricane hardly happens, or something like that. Anyway, thank you very much. I think everybody benefited, and they should try it with the student. You're all school students, and some of you are learning English pronunciation, somewhere I know. So thank you very much, Dr. Shahryar, for your wonderful speech.
Thank you.
Just question answer session, I suppose.
Yes. Anybody has any questions? Fire away, I think. How about 2 minutes? Okay, if Rebecca Brishti has a question, please unmute and ask your question.
I would like to appreciate Shahryar sir for his tissue technique and the thing he told us, that mutual intelligibility. It is important for all of us. First of all, not laughing at anyone, and secondly, what we are doing at our bus session is the same thing. First of all, we grow our mutual understanding, then we practice, 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 and practice. That's all I would like to say. Thank you, Bhaiya. Thank you for giving me the floor.
Okay, anybody else?
The main reason I actually focused on this is because a lot of people are not maybe aware of linguistic discrimination, because you could be discriminated in a social context sometimes if you don't speak properly, whether it's in your native language or English. People judge you based on how you speak. They might think that, oh, you're from the village, or you're a simpleton, only based on how you speak. The way you speak doesn't actually reflect how smart you are intellectually or in other ways. But that's the thing that's visible. And that's why people judge you based on that. You could be from the village and you could be really smart. There's no problem. But other people don't wait to find out. It's based on the way you speak. And then professionally, as I've already mentioned, you could be discriminated against as well, because sometimes people feel that the way you speak represents your intellect, which is not actually correct. So it's very important to give a good first impression, which quite often could be your last impression that you ever get the chance to give to other people. Okay. That's why, in order to avoid linguistic discrimination, it's very important to be able to pronounce properly.
Yeah. I think we
have three questioners. One is Fatima, then is Shariful Islam, and then Masudur Rahman. And funnily enough, they're all from English, Addan English group. Okay, Fatima, please shoot.
Thank you. Pronunciation practice is quite continuous, is a continuous process. So it is quite difficult to handle it sometimes. Still, I'm learning. So could you please tell me about how most important one, the method, which method is quite easy to learn? And another thing is that dictionary, you were talking about dictionary. So sometimes I feel it is another things, another level that just it is quite difficult to know what sort of what is the proper word or proper pronunciation. Like we have so many words like short sound and long sound. So it is another thing difficult to understand, like sheet and sheet. There's just two sentences like pit, pie. So we have to make the long sound and short sound. It is another, I think, another thing. So could you please tell me about which method is quite easy to learn?
As I already mentioned, if you want some kind of guideline, then if you want to teach yourself, the basic guideline would be IPA, follow the IPA, because that's recognized everywhere. And it's available as well in dictionaries, English to English dictionaries. And if you do not know the sounds, then you can just Google them up and find out, because you have the dictionaries also in the CD form as well. And if since it's in the CD form, you can listen to that. Furthermore,
Frozen. Is frozen. Is frozen. Weak.
I think, yeah, it's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen. Okay, we can't hear him. Maybe he can hear us. Okay, our next questioner is Shariful Islam. You can ask the question. Maybe he'll be able to hear us. Shariful Islam, go ahead.
All right. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are. And you should
Yes.
be
My
intelligible.
question is, Mr. Shahriar, sir, I appreciate his wonderful tissue technique to master the sounds like pa, ka.
yeah, so that's
It seems like he left this session. I don't know.
No?
Is he there?
Maybe there was
Maybe he was frozen, but he has started to melt.
No,
he's
no,
back.
he's there. He's
Okay,
back. He's
okay,
back.
okay, good.
Can you
good.
repeat the question?
Okay.
I got disconnected for a minute.
Okay, Sharif, please go ahead. Start.
Yes. Yes. My question is that, sir, thank you very much. I appreciate your tissue technique, and you just demonstrated some sounds. I'm sorry.
Please, yeah, if you are not speaking, please unmute your camera. Please mute your camera. If you are not speaking, please mute your camera. I mean, mic.
I'm writing my question.
Yeah, in the meantime.
All right, I'm back. All right, I'm back.
Okay, go ahead. Good.
Hello?
We don't have much time. Please, we have few
Yes.
more.
My question is that sir, thank you for demonstration some sounds, but is this all sounds that only for learning the pronunciation or to minimize the gap that you said that the discrimination, linguistic discriminations, suppose in Lalmonirhat people of Lalmonirhat, Bangladesh, they speak in such a way, tisar, then people of Netrokona, teacher. How can I minimize this gap following this tissue technique?
Again, I just said, I mean, practice. And the other thing is obviously you need someone who actually knows that pronunciation as well. So because you need someone to help you with that. Initially, you can record yourself and see if it's close to the original one. And then you need someone to also help you who can recognize the difference between your mispronunciation and the actual pronunciation. So without that guide, because quite often I see, teachers tell students to practice. Now, if you have two students who both are not good at English or pronunciation and they practice, they can become fluent, but they still mispronounce. So you need an environment where someone can help you. That could be your teacher, that could be someone in your house, and then they have to be able to tell you what is the problem and then get you to pronounce the right thing. So if those people want to correct their pronunciation, they need a place, a controlled environment. That situation is called controlled environment. In a controlled environment, there will always be someone who can help you to correct the pronunciation, and then you have to practice. So that has to be done. And then obviously uttering individual words is one thing. Uttering them in a sentence is a different thing, because sometimes the words change. For instance, if you say M-U-S-T, must, the T is clearly pronounced when you individually say it. But if you say it in a sentence, it becomes must. I must go there. I must go there, rather than I must go there. Now in that sentence, if you emphasize I must go there, it has a different meaning. If you say I must go there, you're casually just saying you need to go there. But if you insist on saying, I must go there, you have to go there instantly. It has a different meaning. So people who pronounce need to recognize how sounds can also change in sentences, and how by emphasizing certain sounds, the meaning of the sentence can also change as well. It's not like one size fits all.
No, that's why I like to ask second question. I'm sorry. That does your
let's give somebody else a chance. I think two more people are waiting there. Okay, Masood, can you please? Sorry, we don't have too much time. Masood, can you ask your question if you're there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, sir, for your wonderful presentations. It's really fantastic for the speakers, basically those who are not native speakers. I have two questions, but one has already been done by Mr. Sharif and Fatima Farid. Another question is this: do you have any written materials for the Bengali speakers where they can learn the similarities, the sounds that are common between Bengali and English, and basically the about the vowel sounds?
No, I don't have any materials. I think Amin sir has lots of materials. You can use his materials if you want, but I don't have any materials regarding those things. Usually, you know, if you act as a resource person, and then some materials, meaning you could get podcasts of the facial expression, not the entire face. Like right now, you can see my entire face, but if you were to magnify only the face, you can see the different parts. And by using organs of speech, you can also rectify some of the problems, like organs of speech, you know, the parts that you use to pronounce. For instance, when you say, for instance, the va sound, va. We don't have in Bangla va, we have bho. Therefore, you say I love you, or you know, hebi. You don't. So if you again, when you say hebi, you tend to use your two lips, and there's an explosion for bho. But if you say va sound, you use the upper lip. You use the upper lip, and then you use. I'm sorry, we have a cat and it's disturbing. So you use the lower lip and you use the upper teeth, and then you don't use two lips, and then you blow very, very, as opposed to peri. So if you look at the organs of speech and the parts that are used to pronounce the words, and then try to use those organs of speech, then that can also help you as well.
Thank you. Okay, our final question, unless there's somebody else, Saeed Shaheen from Sylhet.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Amin Bhai, for giving me the floor to speak. Thank you so much, Sharia sir. I was enjoying your session about pronunciation. Especially, I'm interested about pronunciation. And I'm from Sylhet, and I'm from Adda in English program run by Amin Rahman Bhaiya. So here I'm also run a session every Thursday. It is pronunciation car driving session. So there, sir, we go to an imaginary car driving while we practice reciting some poems. Okay, we have a structure. So there we use a book like this red book. It is Ingreji Uchcharonar Obhidhan, that is EPD English pronunciation book. So here, Amin Bhaiya developed a system that is BPA, Bengali phonetic alphabets. So here he wrote in Bangla word how to pronounce a word, English word, like where to stress and which syllable to stress. So as I got something new from you, like you are using tissue technique to do this. So sir, I'm going through so many programs or webinars, so we are seeing so many things. So how do you think that blending the things, Mr. Amin Rahman is doing an excellent job, and your one also a very good initiative. So how do you think that blending the techniques? So is if we blend so many things, we're learning from some English people and also by our own people. So if we blend the things, so how do you see these things? What will
Yeah,
be?
you can. I mean, the ultimate goal is to pronounce properly. Now, whatever mechanism helps you, that's up to you. But you would have to be, I mean, you're saying that Englishman, I mean, if that, a native speaker of English is familiar with the Bangla sounds, then that person can help you practically. If that person isn't, then, that person cannot, because we get lots of foreigners, native speakers who cannot pronounce our names properly as well. So for instance, we say Muhammad. Now in English, you don't have the da. So you say Muhammad, they say Muhammad, which is incorrect. I mean, in terms of our thing. So if you have a native speaker who is not familiar with our sounds, that native speaker cannot help Bangladeshi to correct his or her sounds in that sense. So you need someone who is familiar with the Bangla sounds as well as English sounds. So in this case, I would say that someone from Bangladesh should be much better at teaching pronunciation to a native Bangladeshi than a foreigner. But again, regarding the mixing of things, whatever is convenient, it's not like you have to follow one thing A to Z. But I would say that to a certain extent, if you can overcome the Bangladeshi sounds, then in that case, IPA can help you. But if you cannot overcome the Bangladeshi sounds, then in that case, I guess at the moment, Amin sir's book is out there that can help you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Dr. Shahryar. Once again, I will thank you on behalf of everybody. And it is now time for the next session. And
just a quick remark that the question and answer session on this session does not end here. You can continue the conversation on Edmodo and our own forum website.
You should all become member of Edmodo, as Sagun Sreshta showed you earlier, and I think he will show you again at the end of today's session. So you should become member of Edmodo. Okay, over to you.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, now let me introduce our second presenter. So she is Nusrat Guljar. She is an assistant professor at the University of Dhaka. She has an MA in English language teaching from the University of Warwick, UK. Her research interests include reflective practice, the potential of e-portfolios in language teacher professional development, and the use of technology in teaching writing. She is currently working as a co-leader of an A.S. Hanby Educational Trust funded project, which seeks to develop digital teaching resources for school teachers of English in Bangladesh. She has recently published her work in the Routledge Handbook of Language Teacher Education. So yeah, congratulations to you, madam, for your recent publication, and also it seems like you've been successful in your, in your bidding. So congratulations to you. And now she's going to, I think her story is around teaching academic writing online. Before she starts her presentation, I would like to request Rezwana madam to chair this session. Thank you so much. Yes, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nusrat.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Shall I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Sati madam and Rizwana madam, and good afternoon. I hope you can see my screen, and I'm sure that you can also hear me. Is everything okay?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see the screen clearly.
Thank you very much. The topic of my presentation today is teaching writing online, incorporating the 4 C's of 21st century skills in a tertiary level writing class. This is going to be the outline that I'm going to follow for today's presentation. I'm sorry if you can't see my next slide because my network is a bit poor today, but I hope you can see now. This is the outline of the presentation. And before I move on to my context, my teaching context, I would just like to highlight that what we actually, as teachers, what we actually do in face-to-face writing classes. We tend to facilitate interactions among students. We try to conduct peer and group activities. We also try to follow the textbook activities. We try to encourage our students to discuss what they had or what they write in their notebooks, or maybe we try to assign different interesting writing tasks for them to do. We also usually what we do is we encourage students to work together and to work independently sometimes. And we are very much careful as teachers, we're very much careful and concerned about providing feedback to our students on their drafts, be it on paragraphs, be it on essays. We also tend to, if we get time, we tend to encourage peer and group discussions. So these are the basic activities that usually teachers do in classes when it comes to teaching writing. But when it comes to teaching writing online, things can be a bit different. The scenario is total opposite. We struggle to engage students in tasks sometimes. We also find it hard to make our classes interactive. Now, let me tell you a bit about from my side. I began online teaching last November. I was on maternity leave, so I didn't actually start teaching online from June. My university, Dhaka University started teaching online in June, but I actually, began my remote teaching from November. So at the very first, phase, I was kind of skeptical. I was very much, concerned about my performance as a teacher. How would I conduct the online class? At the same time, I was not sure about my students' responses because it's about writing, and it's totally different when it comes, as I said, it's totally different when it comes to online writing classes because you can't get to see your students' work. You can't get to, observe their responses face to face. So these are the few questions initially that came to my mind, and I was very much concerned about my students' performances, their actions, what sort of questions I would be facing, how would I be providing feedback to my students, what sort of medium I would be using, and what if my students are not encouraged to complete the tasks given on the textbook. So these were the questions I had in mind, and I was very much careful about this course. I teach a number of courses in this semester, but I was very much careful about this course because it involves writing, and I was very much confused about encouraging interaction in classes, just to keep them going, just to keep them engaged and motivated in writing, because writing itself is a daunting task. We all know teaching writing is daunting, and learning to write itself needs to be, this is an action. It needs to be taken care of because you need to practice a lot collaboratively. Not even in you need to be practicing writing in isolation, but you also need to do things collaboratively. So this is my context. This is my classroom. I have 42 students in my writing class, and the title of the course is Developing Academic Writing. The textbook that we follow in our department, titled Writing Essays with Ease, is not available right now because students are, in different parts of the country. So we provide them scanned copies, of the textbook chapters. And each week, maybe after 14 days, we start a new chapter. We provide them with the scanned pages. And that's how we are conducting the academic writing course right at the moment. So there is no hard copy of the book. The platform that we use for teaching is Zoom Bediren, and the online learning management system, which is free of cost. We all know Google Classroom is very much common now. Most institutions in Bangladesh, both private and public, are using Google Classroom very conveniently, because it's easy for the students, it's easy for the teachers to operate as well. And I also had a few questions in my mind regarding my role, as I said earlier: student interaction, communication, of course, feedback. How would I provide my feedback when I'm using Google Classroom, when I'm using Zoom sessions? Should I record my lectures? Should I take live classes every week? And what if, they don't show up? What happens then? How would I reach out to them, and how would I contact them in case of their writing and everything? As I said, teaching writing in an online environment is sort of a challenging job, because most of the communication that takes place involves writing. Students, they will be posting their questions on Google Classroom, they will be emailing you, they will be sending you private comments. You as teacher would be replying to their comments, maybe you'll be posting something, maybe you'll be replying to their email. So everything involves written communication, and sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating for students, because they're in their very advanced, very basic level, and it becomes really challenging for them to communicate with their teacher in English every time. So that is one of the things that comes with teaching writing online. And all these aspects of teaching influenced me to think something different. I thought of focusing more on encouraging my students to talk in my class. Though it's about writing classes, it's about practicing essays, creating drafts, and showing that to teacher, and gathering feedback and working on your feedback, and then providing the final draft. But I tried to focus more on discussions in my synchronous classes. We had a number of activities in each chapter, in each of the chapters in our textbook, and I tried to, make my students speak, or at least type their responses in the chat box while I conducted the Zoom classes. Why I was kind of, I stressed this aspect of teaching, engaging students in online classes, because, writing itself is a very, very intimidating process. You need to get rid of your writing block as a writer, as a student, as a teacher. You need to take a deep breath sometimes, and you also need to be very careful about your audience. And it doesn't happen in isolation. You need to interact with people. You need to interact with peers. You need to, brainstorm together. You need to write a topic sentence, think about a word, ask your friend about the meaning, and ask your teacher. So everything involves engagement and collaboration. So that was one of the things I was concerned about. And I was also concerned about the role of myself as a teacher. This is one of the things that I found very interesting. So I thought of sharing this with you, that in case of online teaching, you need to be very much, careful about your pedagogy, and find the very vital points, where pedagogy and technology genuinely meet, and develop highly specific goals, tasks, and instructions that facilitate such a union. And in other cases, would you be sticking to your lecturing mode in writing classes? No, absolutely not. You have to change your style. And that's why, you have to think of the changing role of teachers in these challenging times, and of course, in teaching online. So it's about reporting and discussing. It's about giving and taking. It's not just about giving and delivering. It's also about taking back from your students and responding to your students' responses accordingly. So Moore highlighted these three, kinds of interactions in distance learning, and he said that these three modes of interaction, they actually complement each other. They are interlinked. You cannot just separate any of these, mode from each other, any of these modes from each other. So first of all, it's about interaction with content, interaction with the instructor, and instruction with peers. So it's everything is, it should be a combination. So everything is supposed to be combined together, be it a face-to-face class or online class. We know the strategies, more or less when it comes to face-to-face classes, but when it comes to distance learning, you have to be careful about the content, your responses as an instruction, your interaction, and of course, interaction with peers. So what was my intervention? What I did actually with my students in my writing class of 42 students, I had the purpose, I actually wanted to, make them feel relaxed and encouraged to participate in writing activities. As I said, without pen and paper, without having a teacher in front of you, it's very hard to practice writing. And without your friends, it's very difficult at the same time. So I wanted to help them, kind of come out of their comfort zones and talk to me, interact with the teacher and try to participate in written form, no matter, what the form is. They can also, they did, speak in their sessions, but they actually preferred writing in the chat boxes. And the other thing that I wanted to focus on was to keep them motivated and to create a positive impression about peer and teacher electronic feedback, because this is not a feedback that I'm providing, through pen and paper. I'm giving them a comment. I'm actually editing their Google Doc assignment. So I should be also, thinking of their reactions. How do they react to their teacher's electronic feedback, right? Because they can't hear my voice. They can't read my red inked comments. They are just reading something from screen. So this is really crucial to think about. And my plan was to introduce 1 or 2 or 3 simple, very simple digital technology tools through my classes to help my students practice the 4 C's of 21st century skills in their writing class. Why 4 C's? Because the 4 C's, we all know, I think many of us know the 4 C's of the 21st century skills. They are collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. Now, these 4 skills are vital for any student to accomplish, to be proficient at, and to be skilled, because in today's world, students need to communicate in diverse environments. It's not possible to just interact with you're just not limited to interacting with your friends or your teacher. You have to go out and communicate with others in this global world. So my plan was to use a few digital tools that would help and promote these 4 C's in my classes. And this I would consider my project as an action research project. And I was inspired by Kurt Lewin's model, planning, acting, observing, and reflecting. So I'm not sure if I would get enough time to focus on my reflections today, but definitely there's Edmodo, as the organizers were saying, so we can actually discuss things later. What is actually communication? Communication is when you develop the ability to share thoughts and ideas through oral and written interpersonal forms. And what is critical thinking then? Critical thinking is about analyzing, different parts of a whole, maybe evaluating something, maybe analyzing a particular argument, a statement, or a claim, or maybe coming up with your own very thoughtful argument and being able to refute it. That's also a very strong ability that a person sometimes possesses, right? So being able to reflect critically is also important. So I'm just quickly taking you through this because I have a number of slides to cover. Okay, so collaboration is again something where you demonstrate the ability to work, mindfully, carefully, and very effectively with lots of efficiency with your colleagues, with your peers. And it's also about valuing and respecting others' work. It's also about being positive about others' comments and others' arguments. And it's also about being able to work in groups. So the other C is creativity, where you come up with different idea forming techniques, where you are able to link, different topics together, different ideas together, and come up with something very interesting or very out of the box kind of thought. And it's also about creating,
evaluating, I believe you have 5 minutes
and
left.
analyzing. Okay, thank you very much. So it's basically about, being able to solve problems critically and being able to design or come up with different ideas. You put a lot of thought in it, right? So it's very important to be creative as students. So let me just quickly jump over to my, yes. What I did, what are the tools that I actually used to encourage communication, and what are the activities that I use to encourage communication and collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. So I tried to use breakout rooms, which was very successful. This is one of the activities that my students loved very much. I never used breakout rooms before, but in writing classes during the brainstorming session, students enjoyed breakout rooms very much, and it helped them communicate with their peers. Posting, commenting on Google Classroom, helping them to, encouraging them to share resources from YouTube on writing, outlining stages or brainstorming stages. What are the characteristics of an argumentative essay? So these were the topics that I encouraged them to, explore, and they have come with a lot, a number of nice creative resources. When it comes to feedback, as I said, I was trying to encourage, positive responses and positive impression among my students. So I tried to use Vocaro, which is a very simple tool, and it helped me to reach out to my students. My students heard my voice, and they said that it gave them a very different feeling. They were very much, they felt that they are in the class. So that's one of the one of the other successes, I would say. In terms of critical thinking and collaboration, I encourage them to come up with group presentations consisting of different images. The topic, for example, was on classification and division essays, or maybe on Bangladeshi sweets, Bangladeshi fruits. So they came up with different images, and they have posted them on Padlet. So Padlet also was one of the tools that I used to encourage collaboration and critical thinking. And they also collated a number of images and came up with something like this, a PDF file with lots of images and labelings and everything. So it was one of the other, outcomes of using different digital tools. Jamboard is also another tool that I used to encourage collaborative brainstorming, particularly collaborative brainstorming and creativity. So this tool helped me, understand my students' levels, how much encouraged they are to post, how much, attentive they are right now, whether they're regular or not. So they kept posting pictures and different, messages regarding the topic. And this was one of the things that helped me to find out more about my students. And I also understood that they are really creative. If they get the chance, they can be very creative. So let me just quickly jump over. These are the examples. For example, this is the Padlet interface where I asked students to post their brainstorming, and they did accordingly. And it's very colorful, and it helped them to become communicative and collaborative at the same time. So these things weren't possible in face-to-face classes. So these are the advantages of having online classes. You get to do a number of things. You can experiment with a number of tools with your students, and you get to see the changes. So these are the changes in my students. I was skeptical. I was very much worried about their performance, their motivation level, and their participation in my classes. But after using these tools, after integrating these tools in my classes, I have found them to be very, regular in class, and they have given me quite a good feedback. They were more sincere and positive about their assignments, and they have learned to communicate with their teacher. They have also learned to complete projects, everything with much enthusiasm and creativity. Now, this study, it's a work in progress study. But before I end my session, I just like to give you a glimpse of my data collection stage. It's still going on. But I have, adapted my questionnaire. I have designed a questionnaire for my students as form of a reflective, it's more like a reflection form, which was particularly adapted from Swan's feedback tool questionnaire and Klimova's study on student self-reflections as a form of evaluation in writing courses. So what I did was I have conducted, I still have one chapter to complete. So this experiment, this intervention is still going on. But what I did is I gave them a reflection form to complete after I had used these tools and after I had completed 90% of the syllabus. I have asked them to complete this form. And the sections in my form were, perceived learning, perceived interaction with students, perceived interaction with teacher, feedback, perceived activity in course, and review of class material. So I'll be analyzing my data by, following these criteria. But I have asked my students to complete the reflection form, which consisted of both open and closed-ended questions, very much reflective questions. And they actually, came up with, these are some of the comments that I have found, noteworthy to be, shareable.
I believe the time is over. If we could.
All right. Can I just get 1 more minute, if possible?
Sure.
Thank you. So these are the comments that I found from my students. And before that, just let me highlight that the 6 parameters that I will be following while analyzing my data. And I have done a bit of it just to show you that the statements that I have given to my students to complete, these are some of the statements. And if I try to, match it with the competencies that I was talking about, 4 C's, you would see that most of the the C's, the communication, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, these skills were clearly met. Students actually did practice these skills while completing their online tasks. So thank you very much for your chance for giving me this opportunity, but I would actually, it's very difficult to finish a presentation in 20 minutes. Just quickly onto the implications that we should be, we shouldn't be feeling discouraged or, demotivated to try something new with our students in these challenging times, because we also need to give them some scope to feel, better, feel or get some chances to talk to their peers and learn in a very interesting manner. So I believe that trying something new is always possible, and for these difficult times, it's just a must. We just shouldn't be thinking about blended learning or online learning as a challenge, but we should take the scope as an opportunity and allow our students to practice creativity and critical thinking as much as possible. So thank you very much. This was my success story, and I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nusrat. It was indeed a success to put everything into perspective during a pandemic when we are barely surviving, and asking our students to just stay in that class. We didn't only make them stay in that class, we actually made them work, and they were actually enjoying it. So I would say definitely it's a double success if I count it as a teacher who is also doing academic writing. So we'd like to open the floor for questions and discussion. Does anyone have any questions? Could you please share them in the chat section, or could you please switch on your microphone and share with us? In the meantime, may I ask you one question?
Sure, ma'am.
So when you were using these tools, the Padlet, and we were talking about, there was this other thing where you used, what was the other tool? The Padlet was one of the tool, and Jamboard. You used Jamboard. Padlet,
yes.
Jamboard. What
Breakout
sort of
rooms
responses
and
did you
Vocaro.
get? Like, in these cases, sometimes I see that students do not actually want to write in the Jamboard, or they feel like, I mean, the strong ones, they do participate, but for the ones who are a bit
Right.
challenging, what do you do for those students? How do you encourage them to participate?
I think it's a very good question, madam. You're right. You, in every class, you get to see, a group of students who are always active and responsive to your tasks, and they're ready to follow instructions. But then again, there are a few students who are kind of shy, inhibited. They don't want to follow, or maybe they just don't feel confident about themselves. So I also found some students like them in my class. And what I did is through Google Classroom, I individually emailed them. I have sent emails to them individually. And many of them responded, to my surprise. I thought that they wouldn't, because they didn't participate in the classes. But they did reply to my emails. And then I asked them to join today's class, just to have an experience. If you can manage your mobile data, if you can manage today's class, we have a class next morning or next Tuesday, please join the class. So 50% of them did. They just, they appreciated and respected my, instruction. They did participate in the class. And I tried to encourage them to talk in the class, because I did notice that these students were not present in my earlier classes. They are present now. So I tried to involve them in activities. I gave them a passage to read out. Please read this passage. Tanin, please do this and that. So they felt very much encouraged.
I know a thing or two about that one, calling out their names and requesting them, yes, please.
Right. So that helps a lot.
Us with your presence and do grace us with your performance. I believe
Right.
Shaban sir had a question, but I saw the raised hand, but I'm not sure if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, actually, sorry, my question was quite similar to yours. Then I felt like whether to ask it or more a repetition, but I would just make it brief and then try to see if I get some different answers from Nusrat. Thanks, Nusrat, for such wonderful presentation. At first, I can see you have used a number of tools like Google Classroom, Padlet, Jamboard, and then the Breakout as well, which is of course, sometimes it might be quite difficult to handle for a teacher as well, right? So my question is, did students have any difficulty in handling all these tools? Number one, if they have, do you have any suggestions how to make the process smoother so that our teachers who have joined right now will know some strategies, by the way, to handle multiple tools at the same time in one particular, to run your module or to run your course? That's it. No, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Saigon, for your question. Yes, number one, there were a few students who found it very challenging to participate and sign in, to log in and join the activities. But what I did was I took 1 or 2 half-an-hour sessions before I actually embarked on my actual lesson. I took 1 or 2 short preparatory sessions with them. I would say that when I started, introducing these tools with my students, around 10 more students, when I had 24 students who joined my regular classes, when I said that I would be using different tools and I'd be, doing this and that, I tried to make things interesting on Google Classroom posts. So I saw that 30 students joined in my next class. Probably they felt, that something new would be, happening today. My teacher would be doing something different. I don't know, maybe they are kind of, bored, or maybe they are having this monotonous environment all around them. So they were kind of motivated. So when they were facing some challenges, I actually communicated with them individually. I know it's very daunting as a teacher to handle, technological challenges, but what I did was, I'm very much proud of myself, because this is my first, experiment with them. So I gave my best. I tried every effort, and I tried to communicate with them through emails, through private comments on Google Classroom, and through the live session. So there were around 5 to 6 students who were facing difficulties, but most of them did succeed. So that was, something to mention. And your second question was how actually I dealt with these issues that would help other teachers to, use or maybe introduce these tools in their classes. First of all, what I did was I thought of, as I said, that when it comes to face-to-face classes, I knew that if I were in my class, I would do this and that. But when it comes to online classes, I gave it a little bit of thought. I tried to plan my lessons by thinking that how much time would I give to my students and how much time would I take myself for lecturing. And I tried to give the larger percentage to my students. For discussions, for the questions, for introducing the activity, for giving them chances to know the tool. I asked them to explore, the homework was explore Padlet. Go and Google Padlet. What is Padlet? We don't know. We'll be using it in the next class, but your homework is to find out what Padlet is and how do we use it in class. So maybe 5 to 10% of them came up with answers. And when they shared their answers, others were benefited. So everything was mainly discussion oriented, and I was kind of surprised to see that my students really benefited from those discussions.
Thank you. Thanks for answering the questions.
I believe Ram sir had a question, and then Ms. Ram.
Yes. Thank you. And yeah, I think you should be proud of yourself because of the success that we actually listened to. And yeah, thank you very much for sharing it. The question is, you remember you said you frequently organize breakout rooms and they have been very effective. Yeah, there's one question, and sometimes we struggle, especially when you have students from the same country. How do you ensure that they speak in English?
Right.
When they are working?
Yes. This was something that I noticed. Thank you very much, Sir Ram sir, for your very interesting question. And I actually reflected on this as a teacher. During my first 2 sessions in breakout rooms, I gave them one task, and it involved 2 tools. They had to post something on Padlet, but before that, they had to discuss something in breakout rooms. And I divided them in groups of 3. So you know that in breakout rooms, you can easily enter one room and listen to your students' conversations. So in my first session, I observed that 100%, I mean, most of every student was talking in Bengali. They didn't speak English at all. And they were just saying, hi, hello, hey, where were you, how have you been and everything, long time and everything. They were just, chatting and, they weren't focusing on my task. So I tried to handle that, in a different manner, in a very technical manner. I let them, complete their task. They have written everything in English on Padlet, but they discussed everything in Bangla. So later on, during my second session, I mentioned that this class is about English academic writing. You are communicating with me in English, you are chatting in English, you are posting statuses on Facebook in English. So it becomes your responsibility to communicate in English, no matter if it's broken, no matter if you are concerned about your pronunciation, or no matter if you think your friend will laugh at you, it doesn't matter, but you have to talk in English during breakout rooms, because I will be visiting you within 1 or 2 minutes. So I did visit my students, and I found that 50%, or I would say that maybe I had 8 breakout rooms, so I found 4 breakout rooms totally involved in speaking English, but the other ones were still speaking in Bangla. So there are certain cases where you don't have anything to do, because you are actually bound with the timing. You have time constraints and everything, so you can actually chase every student, but it's possible sometimes to reach at least 70 to 80% of your students and make them encouraged to participate.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I think we have one more question. Ramsar, can we take one more question? It's from Mr. Amin.
Sure. Yeah. Let's make it quick, please. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Mr. Amin, please.
Who's asking?
Mr. Amin, I believe your microphone is switched off. Your microphone.
Okay, this is not a. No, it is not switched off anymore. Yeah, mine is not a question, it's a comment. Okay, so it's wonderful, this 4 C's you mentioned, and you also mentioned another C, but you did not put it in that. That's a 5C, that is the students have to be curious. And the other thing you mentioned that about being critically reflective, that is fine. That is already mentioned, but I call it chinta, the good old Sanskrit chinta, that is being critically reflective. That is my comment. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I believe over to you, Saifapa.
Thank you, Rajana ma'am. Now it's time for us to move towards the next presentation. And our present.
Sorry,
Saifa. Oh, yeah.
Before next presentation. Yeah, sorry, Sakina. Yeah, please.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Sagan.
Yeah, before today's session will be, today's let's say third hearing session will be quite a little bit longer. Sorry for that. But now we have, in between, we have Ram sir to share something related to writing. I think it will be interesting for everyone.
Yeah, I will take only a few minutes. Probably we now understand that the stories have been very inspirational, and we have been inspired. We have been very, very inspired. So, inspired by the success of your stories, we are going to announce something that we, haven't said anything about it to you. But before we do the announcement, I think the announcement is already there on the screen. Well, let me tell you a few things about why we want to do this. No, go on. That's all right, Saganji.
Yeah, that's true.
We all recognize the power of success stories. We all know that they not only benefit the listener or the individuals to improve their own performances, but inspire them to tell and share their own stories. Just this afternoon, I was listening to someone who, left America to work on his own under-resourced country, and he was sharing his success stories. The bottom line of his story is it has gone viral, so probably it is available to you too. You will be able to access it as well. So the bottom line of his story is that your story, your success story, is more powerful than the story of someone else. Or that's what you have been doing. There are thousands of methods and techniques and things like that in the world now, but you have been doing something unique to you. You have been doing something that fits your context. You have been doing something that is suitable and workable in your context. And that's more powerful than any, story of methods, borrowed methods, or, designer methods, if you like. that have been practiced. So as a testament of the stories of this success story for a project, we would like to publish a booklet. We propose to publish a booklet, and we would like you to submit your story for the booklet. Not only, remember, we, the participants, the members, have immensely benefited from it. We all have benefited from it. I have, and I'm sure you have too. Now we want these stories to inspire other teachers, not only to try these new techniques in their classrooms, but also to tell or share their stories. So as a testament, we would like to publish it, and I would like you to make a contribution. So we are proposing you to submit your stories, and this is the template we are proposing. So as you can see, this template is just an indicative one, not restrictive. So we are just giving it, or saying it, or presenting it, or proposing it as a suggestion. But if you would like to tell your story in any different way, that's also welcome. Once you submit your story, we will work with you to remember to make it. Remember, it's going to be online, published online, so it will be probably shared by someone from America or Africa and in other contexts. So we will, in terms of clarity and content and space, there will be some editorial process involved, but we will work with you to make it publishable. So for now, this is the suggested template. So as you can see, title of your story, your name and email, introduction, introduce, and there are some WH questions there: who you are, where you work, what you do, your hobbies, etc., etc. In that will be like your bio, 150 words, background and context of the story that you are telling, steps that you followed, about 300 to 500 words, regions and signs of success, as Nusrat ma'am was saying. Remember, she has done some survey, and based on the survey results, she can, her success is evident. So any signs, any indications of the success of the story that you are telling. Further plans, what would you like to do next? How would you like to continue? So this is, you tried one class, what about the future classes? Any modifications? How would you like to go with it, or, and so on, go ahead with it. And conclusion about 200 words. So yeah, references, APA 6, when you cite the sources and list, say if you cite the source in your story, please list them as well. In the note section, we say that table, figures, and pictures to illustrate your points, should be included as well. And here we are saying British spellings, but I think this is just a suggestion. So if you use American spellings or any other variety of spellings, don't mix them, British and American together, or British, American, and Australian together. If you use American, be consistent, one throughout. And if you use British, be consistent throughout. So we would like you to will actually be happy if you contribute to this booklet. We have a deadline for this.
Sorry, we haven't set the deadline now. I think we'll do that later, but once our colleagues will show interest in it, right, Ramsar? Is that okay?
Yeah, all right, sure. So how do they express their interest? They send an email to us, right?
Yeah, we will send by tonight, let's say Dublin and let's say British time, UK time. We'll send this template. We'll send three things. We'll send this template, bio doc, the doc to insert their bio, and then the Edmodo link to all our participants. And once they if they are ready, if they are interested, then they can keep on working it and then send it in the step.
Yeah,
will set, which will be flexible though.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
So
yeah, I'm sure you will have many questions about this. So we would like you to share your questions. Probably not now because we'll have to go to the third session. But then ask your questions through the channel and Edmodo, and of course email. So any questions about how to contribute, how anything about the contribution. Remember, we have sponsors, the British Councils and Nelta and Delta. So these stories will be available on their websites as well.
Thanks, Ram sir. So yeah, now we'd be expecting your questions in the chat channel. And now, yeah, without further ado, over to Saifa. Thanks, Ram sir. Saifa, now you can.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sagun. So it's time for me to introduce the next presenters. And the next presenters are Mehnat Munir Mim and Maruf Mojammel. Mehnat Munir, okay, sir. Mehnat Munir Mim lives in Dhaka, Bangladesh, and she has completed her graduation from the Department of English of East West University. Previously, she was the General Secretary and Advisor of East West University English Conversation Club. Now she is doing her MA in ELT and Linguistics at Brack University. She is an experienced teacher and has worked as a teacher at Islami Bank International School and College, and she is also now a fellow at Teach for Bangladesh. On the other hand, Maruf Mojammel lives in Chittagong, Bangladesh, and he has completed his graduation from the Department of Philosophy of Jahangirnagar University. Previously, he was the Vice President of Jahangirnagar University Debate Organization. Now he is doing his MA in Philosophy at Jahangirnagar University. He is also an experienced teacher and worked at Robi 10-Minute School. Currently, he is a fellow at Teach for Bangladesh. So I would like to invite Mehnat Munir Mim and Maruf Mojammel to present. But before that, I would like to invite Vishnu sir to chair the session. Vishnu sir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Saifa. Without delay, let me introduce Mehnat Munir Mim and Maruf Mojammel. Welcome to the presentation session. Now your time starts now. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir. So, Maruf bhai, can you please share the slide? Thank you so much, Maruf bhai. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So before starting the presentation, I want to give a brief overview of our vision. As Teach for Bangladesh Fellows, we envision a society in which all children receive an excellent education that empowers them to realize their full potential and shape their own future through talent and hard work. We believe that there is no age limit or boundary when it comes to education. Our education begins after birth, so there is no shortage of effort by teachers, students, or families to accelerate formal education. Even then, the easy path to education is often hampered by various obstacles. Such a thorny path has been created due to the epidemic coronavirus. Yet we all are working together to accelerate education through distance learning or online learning, because we believe the education of overcoming adversity and obstacle is the most important education for all of us. And at the same time, our expectation is that the light of education will shine in all the houses. With this hope, I, Mehnat Munir Mim, and my co-presenter, Maruf Mojammel, welcome all of you to our presentation on mobile-assisted language learning, where teaching and learning is merged with 21st century skill. So moving on to the next slide. Marubhai, next slide, please. Okay, so at first, I want to start with the close of our classroom. We teach primary level students, and you know that they have very short attention span. So we try to make them curious about online education, because we all know that curiosity is an aspect of intrinsic motivation that has great potential to enhance student learning. Our main concern was to make the students comfortable with the online mode of learning, as it is totally a new area for underprivileged primary level students. Also, most of them do not have any laptop or computer, so our hope was only on smartphones, and we had to work with that. So we put all our hope on apps like WhatsApp, Emo, Messenger, because Zoom and Google Meet was too difficult for them to understand. And in this pandemic situation, we couldn't go out to teach them about this application. So we started taking classes on Emo, WhatsApp, and Messenger. At first, the attendance was relatively low, but we didn't lose hope. We started incorporating different fun activities, socio-emotional learning in the lesson, so that we can make the students curious about online class. We also keep a grounding activity before starting the main lesson, such as storytelling in English, doing breathing exercise, playing words game, color games, and so on. And it worked like a game changer for us, because students started to feel more welcome and relaxed when they come to the class. Also, the few students who joined the classes at first, they informed their friend about our mobile assisted class, and the parents started to communicate with us to know how their children can also join the classes. So we started adding more students in our Emo and WhatsApp group. All the techniques we apply in our classroom created a great and positive impact on both students' physical and mental health. And if you can see the pictures, I guess you can see their excitement on their faces for our class. So moving on to the next slide. Marvin, next slide. Yeah. In addition, the activity that works like magic is to create a 5-step lesson plan in alignment with 21st century skills, because we think that a prepared teacher can prepare his or her students for upcoming challenges. And this 5 steps lesson plan contain all the plans for facilitating a mobile assisted language class. So if I talk about the 5-step lesson plan, it includes opening, introduction to new materials, guided practice, independent practice, and closing. So we tried to make the lesson plan in alignment with 21st century skill. As you already know, the term 21st century skill is generally used to refer to certain core competences such as collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity that advocates believe schools need to teach to help students thrive in today's world. So to begin with, in the opening part, we incorporated communication and creativity. We speak in English with the children to give them proper exposure, and we expect them to talk in English as well. If they face any difficulty, they seek for our help, and it serves the purpose of communication as well. Also, if you look at the picture in the opening part here, I was playing stand up and sit down game with the students. It's a really fun game. So if I say stand up and if they sit down, they will be out of the game. So this is how it works. So as I intend to teach command request that day, so that's why I put this activity, which actually serves the purpose of creativity. Also, in the opening part, I clearly stated the objective so that they know what they will be learning and they are in alignment with the lesson. So Marubha, next slide, please. So secondly, I introduced the new materials with the students at length. We call this part I do, because in this step, only the teacher will be talking and modeling for the students. Here, I started with the definition of request and command. Also, I demonstrated what I will be doing throughout the lesson to how key points, such as I will read the sentences, I will recognize and decide if it is a command or a request. I will mark the commanding and requesting words. So here, as you can see, all the sentences is written in I will format. At this point, all the steps will be done by me as modeling so that the student can understand how the class is going to be conducted. In this part, I will be incorporating communication, as I'll be talking descriptively, then my demonstration will enable the students to think critically. Also, I have to be creative so the student understand the definition and key points even with minimal supervision. So moving on to the next slide. Marvin, next slide, please. Thank you. So thirdly, after introduction to new materials comes the guided practice part, or as we call it, we do part, where all the teachers and the students do the work together, which serves the purpose of collaboration. Here again, at first I described the how key points, but instead of using I will, this time I use we will, such as we will read the sentences, we will recognize, we will mark. So this is how it works. And I will ask the students to repeat what I said this time, just to check for understanding. So this time I read the first sentence, then the rest of the sentences are read by the students. Then I give them time to think as they are going to mark the commanding and requesting words, which is to make them think critically. The students think that after and after that they help one another to do the work as well, which facilitate collaboration and communication among the students. So Marubhai, next slide, please. Okay, so fourthly, after the guided practice part comes the independent practice part, or you do part, where the students will be on their own to solve the problem, and neither me nor any other student will help each other. Now I will describe the how key points again. Instead of using I will say you will, such as you will read the sentences, and you will recognize, you will mark, and so on. Then the student will complete some activities on their own, which will demonstrate critical thinking and creativity from the students' part. When they are done, they send me the pictures of their work through email and WhatsApp. Thus, we can see how gradually release of responsibility works in the class. So moving on to the next slide. Marubhai, next slide, please. Thank you. But last but not the least, in the closing part, some of the students will share what they did and learned in the class, which serves the purpose of communication and collaboration. Also, I give them homework and ask if they have any question or not. I know that this 5-step lesson plan is too long and full of activities. So sometimes we break the lesson plan into bite-sized lesson plans and finish 1 or 2 steps in one day, of which works just fine for a mobile assisted language learning class. So moving on to the next slide. So now I'm going to talk about what we did categorically. So to begin with, we tried to implement the CPA, or concrete pictorial abstract method, especially for teaching vocabulary and sentence making. So usually concrete pictorial and abstract, or CPA method, is a highly effective approach to teach mathematics. And it was actually developed by American psychologist Jeremy Bruner. However, I and my collab partner Maruf Bhai thought that why not use this to teach English vocabulary and sentence making. So we sat and thought for a long time, how can we do that? So in this concrete part, we tried to show and tell the students to bring the object that we can use to teach. For example, in the slide, you can see a ball first. So we tell the student to bring a ball, or they can make the ball out of paper. But the problem was with some objects which they cannot manage or to bring, or they do not have. So for that, we thought we can tell them to draw that object which they cannot bring, such as maybe a tubal. So if I tell them to bring a tubal, that is not feasible, right? So they might draw a picture of the tubal. Then we will see the object or the picture of the object and write the name of the object. So it will help them to understand the real life implication of the things they're learning. So that's how we covered the concrete part. So after that, in the visual or pictorial part, we show a picture or a video which contain that object, such as in the slide, you can see the picture where the children are playing with the ball. So students see the picture and connect the object with a context familiar to them. It enables their background knowledge, or as you can say, schemata. At the end, from the picture, they will write sentences related to themselves or in general sentences, such as I like to play ball with my friends. So this process enables students to think critically and creatively. Also, when they share, it helps their communication and collaboration as well. So moving on to the next slide. So the next thing that we did was introducing a writing workshop among the students to teach writing. So the writing workshop includes idea, drafting, enhancing, editing, and publishing. So in the idea part, the students draw a picture on a given topic using their imagination and critical thinking ability. So if you look at the slide here, my student drew a picture of his village house, as they will be writing a short paragraph on my village house. Now, what drawing picture does is it really cheers the students up, and on top of that, they can visualize what they are thinking. So which is a great start for writing, I would say. So moving on to the next slide. So in the next steps come the drafting part, where they will just primarily write what they can see in the picture, which will be just in chunks of words. For example, in the picture, you can see the student has written a home, trees, a pond, tubewell, a field, and fish in the pond. So he's just getting out the ideas, what he sees in the picture. So if I move on to the next slide. So after drafting, it is time to enhance the points a little more. So as you can see in the picture, he added some details to his drafting, such as he added the type of house, which is tin shaded, what he can see in the river, and the purpose of having tubewell, which is to drink water, field, which is to cultivate crops, and trees, which is to have vegetable and fruit. Still, these points are in chunks of words and not in sentence level. So if I move on to the next slide. So now comes the edit part, where the students write the bullet points in the form of sentences within a paragraph. So after finishing the writing, the students work in pairs. They will exchange their copies, and in online mobile assisted language class, they take a picture and exchange that picture with his or her pairmate to check and give feedback through communication. Now you can ask question like, to what extent they will be able to give feedback to one another, as they are primary level students? Like, I would reply to that question in a moment. So the student exchange that copies through pictures and give feedback to one another and share the feedback in the class. And the student, after getting the feedback, will rectify and modify their writing. So move on to the next slide. In the last step, after finishing editing, this is the time to publish the writing. So in this case, publishing means sharing in front of the class. It can be read aloud or sharing the pictures with the whole group. So, but I mostly prefer reading aloud and then sharing the picture in the group as well. So now to answer the previous question. So if you look at the picture, the marked one, the feedback this student got from his pairmate. So I would say that they can give the feedback on primary level or on the word level, such as adding s or es to the plural words or using verbs according to the subject, which is yet very challenging at this level. So after the publishing part, I check every copy and give them final feedback. So this is how we conduct the writing workshop. So these are the things that we categorically implement in our class to like enhance all 4 skills of English language, such as reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and which are merged with 21st century skill. So thank you very much for listening to me. And now the rest of the part will be discussed by Maruf Musamman.
Yeah, you have 5 minutes remaining, just remaining.
Okay, thanks a lot to me, Mappa. Now, I'm going to present you that what were the signs of success that brings to us that we realize that we are going to success here. First of all, the competency skills that are listening, reading, writing, and speaking. These skills, when we are developing those skills, we found that all the 4 skills were developing by themselves. How I'm going to present you. First of all, when we taught them about the listening skill, we found that the communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration, all the skills are developing to them. How? When I'm gonna read something and asking them that are they listening to me, or can they understand the thing, and what is the object? The questions like that is creating or developing the communication skill among them. And then a very tough part of phone class is that actually there is a huge gap, communication gap between the students and us, because most of the time, 50% of the time, we found that actually a kid of class 2 or class 3, he actually misunderstood our word in online platform. In that situation, actually, we found that a kid is curious to ask questions to us. So while he is making a wrong word or asking something different that we didn't told, actually we are repeating the words, and we are also explaining the words that they explained to us or asked to us. And in this activity, we found that the communication skill, the creativity, the collaboration, and the critical thinking, all the skills are developing for them. And secondly, speaking. In the same process, the speaking competency also developing the 4C skills to the students. And this process also works very similarly as the listening skill also. The first skill is reading. Previously, Mehnat Munir, she explained the writing workshop activities. There was idea draft, enhance, edit, and publish. While we discovered that the idea draft and enhance, these three activity actually developing the critical thinking skill and creativity skill among the students. And while they're on the edit and publish part, their communication and collaboration is developing for themselves. Then comes to writing skill. Basically, when we found that the students are exchanging their photos and actually they're correcting the others' mistakes, then there is a huge collaboration among them. And in this way, the students are also going to introduce themselves, and also they're communicating with other students whom he or she didn't know before those classes. So in these activities, we found that all the 4C skills of 21st century actually developing by learning the competencies, or by doing the competencies, developing the competencies of English. And the last part of our presentation is our plan to build up something new, or actually what we are going to do or extend this success in future. First of all, we are ensuring online access through mobile phone. Basically, I'm proposing a policy here. We know that the World Bank is giving a huge amount of loan without of interest to the governments of third world countries. In our country or countries like Bangladesh, we found that actually World Bank is working a lot for education sector. And on that scenario, we propose that actually we have a huge amount of data that which students have a smartphone and which students doesn't have a smartphone. So following that data, we're gonna sure that who the students doesn't have any smartphone, they will have a smartphone by the incentive of the government. And another policy might be followed, that the CSR program. Actually, we know that the multinational companies or the private companies, they provide simultaneously a huge amount of CSR programs. And basically in our country like Bangladesh, they actually invest those, or they actually expense that money for the branding of their company. But if we follow some policy in the CSR program, we can use those money to ensure the smartphone access and internet access among our students. Secondly, we want to establish a phone school. What does it mean? Basically, this means that the students of primary or high school level, we follow that coaching system is a common phenomena here, country like Bangladesh. So if we can establish a phone school where a teacher will provide education over phone, over internet, and that will reduce the tendency of going to coaching. Why we are proposing this? Because actually, when we are working with the under-resourced or underprivileged children, we need a lot of resources for those kids. And while we are dependent on the coaching or other factors, basically the learning gap is huge in country like Bangladesh. So to minimize that gap, we are proposing this phone school or something like this. We follow that actually we will notice that online school is a common phenomena, but the fact is who have the online access, basically they have the access of private tutor also. So on that situation, we are proposing that actually we can ensure the smartphone for all the kids who are under-resourced or underprivileged, and also there will be a phone school for those children and kids also who doesn't have the access of private tutor. Thirdly, creating digital content for both phone school and offline school. Basically, this model is we are proposing that we will create some PowerPoint slides, videos, audios, and those will be open for all. This will be an open resource program, and everybody will have the access on these contents and on these materials, so that actually while every student have the online access and phone access, then they will have to able to use the contents and they will have a proper education according to our model. And the last thing is distributing created contents through different channels. How we will distribute these contents? Basically, we are using different social medias and apps, and we believe that while we will start the phone school, a huge amount of students will be able to operate those apps and softwares by that channels, and by that ways we'll be able to distribute the contents through the different channels. And that's it from us. Thanks all of you for hearing our presentation, and if you have any question, please, we will try to answer that.
So thank you so much, Mehnat and Maruf, for your wonderful presentation and inspiring success story for us. Especially, it's a very creative and innovative idea to introduce the 21st century skills in using mobile technology in language classroom. It's a great presentation. Thank you so much once again. Now, the floor is open for question and answer session. Could you please unmute yourself, and if there are any questions, you can just start from, let's say, we start from Asfar or Simsar. Let's start. Then the turn is Ifait Rebecca. Okay.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to ask a question. I'd like to say that Mehnaz and Maruf, it was a really nice presentation. I really enjoyed the overall presentation. So I had two simple questions. The first question is to Mehnaz. So Mehnaz, I'd like to ask you, you went through a very detailed process, and you explained us an overall lesson plan. So I saw that you had the how key points, and you said that how to explain the how key points. So I want to ask you that what are the things that you do to understand that a student understands the how key points very well. Sometimes we have lack of communication. Sometimes we have to take strategies. So I wanted to know what are the strategies that you went through so that you understand the students understood the how key point very well. So this was the first question.
So thank you very much, Asfar. So I think you already know that what we do to check for understanding. So the thing that we follow in our classroom, so if to see that if the students have understood the how key points or not, that we ask them to repeat what I have said. And we actually demonstrate the how key points in several stages, in 3 stages. So it is kind of built in their memory, and to know that if they have understood or not, we actually ask them question. We tell them to repeat after we are done with elaborating the points. So if they can repeat the key points, then I can understand that, yeah, they have understood. And if they cannot, then I again explain the how key points, or tell other students to repeat what I have said. So when the other student, they reply, then I again ask the same students who couldn't reply. So this is how it works actually.
Thank you, Enes. Now, Ifait Rebecca, I pronounce clearly.
Yeah, it's Ifat Rebecca Bristi. So I would like to thank again this success form, because we saw a lot of presentation from mutual intelligibility to creativity, curiosity, collaboration. Thank you. And I would like to ask Mehnat and about creativity and curiosity. what about empowering their imagination power? You just told them that draw a picture.
Yeah.
Is that all, or you try to do or something to do empower their imagination power? I mean, all the tasks like field writing about field, writing about village, all are the, like they also somehow empower imagination. What else?
Thank you very much for your question. So to actually facilitate their creativity or critical thinking, as you can say, we encourage them to draw picture, and then we encourage them to like brainstorm. So they actually brainstorm, and also we narrate in the class, like, okay, think about that there is a pond in your village, or think about there are so many trees in the village. So we try to make them visualize what they're thinking. We try to make them visualize, and it actually works great in the class, because when we are narrating something, the students, they tend to imagine those things. So that actually helps in the class.
Okay, thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
I
Sharif.
think we actually saw high-tech presentation from Nusrat ma'am to low-tech presentation from Mehnat Munir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharif ji, now it's your turn to ask
Yes, all
questions.
right. Thank you very much, Mehnat Munir and Maruf. So I have some questions, like you were working with underprivileged children. So now I have two questions. One is, I think the chosen sample, like students from underprivileged environment, maybe their parents might be working. So how could you manage them to bring into the classroom with mobile phone? Because usually the parents hold the mobile phone with them. So underprivileged children, they are open and without mobile phone, playing here and there, moving while their parents are absent. So in which time do you take this class, conduct these classes, and how do you ensure the presence and the mobile phone with the students? All right, thank you very much.
So thank you very much for your question. So as you can see that students are joining our class, so we actually have to select a particular time. So it is usually in the evening. So we take the classes in the evening. So I know it's a very much workload for us, but then again, we have to bring our kids to the class, no matter if it is online or offline. So we have to bring our kids to the class. So that's why we take the classes in the evening shift, when their parents come to the house and they can get the mobile phone, because they do not have their own mobile phones, so they have to rely on their parents. So we actually wait, and whenever they are free, actually even we take one-on-one class whenever they are getting the mobile phone, because we believe that we do not have any particular time to teach the students. As they are our responsibility, we have to give them whatever we can to bring out the best version of their self. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Now, Ram Assis Giri sir, you have raised the hand. If you have any queries, please mute yourself and start. You can mute yourself.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you, Mehnat, and for a very interesting, very timely presentation, especially in this testing time when we are forced to do everything online. I have, I was actually quite fascinated by the way you are managing your classes. And I think the chair of the session, Mr. Vishnu Singh, would also be quite fascinated, because he had been doing something similar in his situation at a different level though. My question is regarding the affordability and accessibility. So you said that the World Bank is helping out in some ways regarding the phone set. How do they afford to have internet connection? So that's one. And so how do they manage to access, given the fact that in Nepal and Bangladesh, you have we have electricity issues, power outage issues, and so on. So how do they manage their accessibility at the time when you want them to connect with you?
Thank you, sir. I guess Marupai wants
thanks a
to answer
lot.
the question.
Okay, sure. So thanks, sir. So basically, our model is that I talked about the CSR program. Basically, when I'm talking about the CSR program in Bangladesh, schools and in the government primary schools, almost every student got that stipend, and we have the phone numbers of their parents. So if we can move to the telecommunication companies such as like in Bangladesh, Grameenphone, Robi, or Banglalink, they are working. So they also work on CSR programs. So I would suggest that a fixed amount of data pack will be provided to them according to their numbers, by which they will able to get the internet access.
Yeah, so thank you, Maru.
That's great. So if there are no queries, we have
Vishnu sir, I think Samiksha Bidari, madam.
yeah, Samiksha ji, could you please? It's your turn now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this opportunity. First of all, I would like to congratulate both of you, Mehnaz and Maruf, if I didn't pronounce your name wrong. Okay, yeah. So you did a great job. Your students are very fortunate to have you as their teachers. You're both very generous and loving. You're very caring, because I remember you mentioned about social and emotional factors there. I'd also like to comment on you being so authentic with your variety of English, because I could hear a lot of Bangladeshi tone into Maruf's language, and that was so beautiful and pleasing to my ears in the time of World Englishes. You are making your students very confident, you're empowering them, and I tried to make note of what you are doing in your classroom, so I have divided into 4 phases. If I have missed something, please add to it. First was like you're developing background awareness. Second was you're modeling the text. Third was you're guiding them in a group. And fourth was allowing them to make an independent construction. And in the last phase, independent construction, your students first started with making a basic, let's say a vocabulary or a phrase of 2 or 3 words, to which you asked them to enhance it, like expand it to a better sentence. So is that what you did? Like I tried to cover, and you were also mentioning about Jerome Bruner. Somehow I need to go and recheck my Google how you did that, but I think it was fantastic. You did a great job. Your students are very fortunate. You're empowering them. Thank you so much. If you have anything to add to my 4 points.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. I was going to say that you described better than me. Like you just summarized the whole thing very well. So thank you for that. I hope that everybody has become benefited because of that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Now I think we'll go to the 4th presentation. Yeah. Ramsar, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentations, and thank you, Vishnu sir, for sharing this. I have the pleasure to introduce the next presenter, Mr. Pushkar Chaudhary, who is an MPhil scholar at Kathmandu University in Kathmandu. As a full-time faculty at Triog High School, which is one of the reputed high schools in Kathmandu, he coordinates digital literacy program. And he is also a member of several international organizations like IETFL, Toastmasters International, and of course, NELTA. His current interests include digital literacy, teachers networking, and professional development. To chair this session, I'm inviting Bivaja Madam, and I'm now requesting Bivaja Madam to initiate the session. Are you there, Bivaja ma'am? Right, Bivaja madam?
She is seen, but I don't know whether she is.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes, she's here.
In the
Okay,
meantime,
so yeah, Bivaja madam will take over when she is back. So meanwhile, I invite Mr. Chaudhary to start his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramaswamy sir, for that wonderful introduction. And brief, I'm just an English language teacher at Thrid High School. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here and to share my screen. My screen is going to share. So before I get started, I think we all have been transitioning to the online classes or remote learning. And how do you feel? Like, what are the differences between in-person classes and online classes? Do you believe that digital literacy skills are really important in the 21st century or at present? So my presentation aims at sharing some practical strategies and accessible tools that English language teacher can incorporate in English language classes. And we can also realize that why it is important in present classes. And when we integrate or when we incorporate in 21st century classes, what are the challenges? And moreover, at present, how it is important to be introduced in the classroom. So we can, again, brainstorm ourselves. How can we rework and adapt to the new format that we are teaching at present? Do you believe that learning technology can enhance language learning, or technology has a relationship with the language learning? How digital literate our learners are, or how digital literate we are ourselves? So like these were the questions it arose in my mind, I think a year back before I started the online classes. Moreover, I started thinking, I went to the research article and I watched some videos and I was really inspired by the work of Nikki Hockley. I think she's one of the leading people or personalities who talked about digital literacy. And Bill Shaw also, I think, has talked in 2040 about the essential element of digital literacy. So now talking about my background of my school, when we talk about the remote classes, it has been a year that we have started online classes. And I would like to focus on these three areas. We have synchronous and asynchronous learning. Meaning to say we interact, we demonstrate the learning or mastery, the student learning lively, and we also involve them doing with the assignment or doing the project work. And for that, we are using Zoom definitely, and Google Hangout are also used in some of the classes. But later on, we are engaged with the Fuse Classroom, which is our learning management system. Before that, we had eSchool, eCloud, which was our CMS, and where it was just limited for taking the assignment, taking the result, and the student portfolio. Besides that, we have been connected with the parents with Gmail, Facebook, and social medias. And I would like to talk about the assignment assessment, which has been transfigured at the present time, and that is online assessment. We focus on oral activities and student work or student portfolios and student other activities like writing journal, e-portfolios, and so on. So these were the basic elements that I think have to be considered when we had to go for remote teaching. Now to answer the first question, what really went with my teaching and learning? So I would see again the three areas, and there are alternative ways of working. We all learn how to work at this difficult time, and so do I. I learned how to work by being at home or work remotely. This was the time I explored a lot of tech tools, and I shared with the student, designed a lot of digital materials and share with the student. At the same time, I also participate in online trainings and the webinar, which enhance my professional learning. And definitely I say that there are a lot of tech tools which I had never explored before, and this was the time to explore, to teach in that classroom. Second important thing is that we were connected with the parent, but this time more, I think, connection with the parent and rapport building were there with the parents and the student. So the communication with the parent about the student update, most of the time, we just blame to the student why they keep their camera off or they stayed unmuted or sometimes muted, but there are several reasons that they have to go through. So we communicate about them. I try to maintain the student well-being by teaching them, okay, what should be shared on the internet and where the content could be collected. So a lot of things I appreciated the student things. Lastly, I think the evaluation system, which was totally different. Okay, all our assessment system was before, it was limited to the written assessment, but this time we learned how to assess the student remotely. I think there were other parameters or the checklist to evaluate the student, that was attendance, their group work, their presentation, e-portfolios, and so on. So I think these are the three areas that I really was impressed with, and I think that three areas really went well. Now, talking about the second question, what did I do category to achieve my success? I mean, how I enhance digital literacy skills among the students. So as I told that, I was really impressed with the framework of Nikki Hockley and Belser's basic element of digital literacy. So I focused on these four areas. I focused on the first part, like the language or the information. How could I help my student to deal with the massive information that are found online? Okay, which are important, essential element for them? Will they be able to read the audio material or beside the textbook, okay, where they can find the information? And the next important thing is that when teachers were working a lot, we're really tired. And I thought later on, I think they also need to collaborate each with others so that the multiple ideas would come from them. So I started thinking, like, how could I make them collaborate with their project work or do other things? Next thing is that, will my student will be able to communicate like in a Viber group or social medias? Will they be able to read the material beside the text that are found on the internet or anywhere else? Lastly, on the creative thinking and creative critical thinking skills, like as I told that earlier, when we went remotely, okay, they did not have the textbook, they did not have any physical material. So all they have to depend was on the internet. So I was wondering that how my student could redesign, master, and remix the things that are available in the internet. So I focus on those four areas. So what I basically did, the first thing is that digital textbook or the digital learning material. I learned them how to navigate for the information on the internet, which website are important for them. Okay, when I was sending the email, were they able to read or not? How could they find more information from the hypertext or the hyperlink? How can they tag their friend to share the information? And moreover, well, how the information are shared on the internet? Are they able to find the correct information? I was focusing on those first part. Next part is that I focus, as I told earlier, the second part was collaboration. So many of them had the problem of technology and so on. So I focus on the group work and the peer work, which you can see on the right hand side that two of the students doing the project work together. So I divided them in a group, maybe like in group, there were 2 or 3 students max. They were also involved in an individual work. And I used different tools like Kahoot, Edmodo, ClassDojo, Padlet, Thrid, and where they collaborate and share the information. So Edmodo was the platform where if we find the information, anything about grammar or arts, anything They used to share there, they used to write a comment, they used to submit assignment. It was very helpful for me to form the group. Now, Kahoot was definitely for interactive learning or teaching through gamification. The third thing was Classdojo. Actually, it's a tool that connects parents and the student, but I think that helped me to keep the e-portfolio, because there were some quality measures, like whether they are attending the school, classroom, or administering online classes on time or not. Are they interacting in the classroom or not? So I had given some pointers over there, some marks over there, and their parents were able to see. And definitely for the group discussion and so on. And the last tool that I have been using is Flipgrid, I think, which children are really enjoying. So at the end, I'll be sending you the link where you could see some of the work done in the Flipgrid and in the other platform. I'd like to discuss on the third pointer, like how I focus on communication. So as I told earlier, that physical textbook was not the thing. It was very problematic for them to split the file, to merge the file, to send the file to us. And so I use different things for the teaching. For example, immersive reader helped me to enhance their listening skill, because it helped for the accurate pronunciation, and there were other tools like Flipgrid and other platforms which helped me to conduct the mini debates about the debate. My question was, why do you think that maths is important in 21st century or in 2020, or then laptops and other things? So they did a wonderful project work. So beside the printed textbook, the student had to learn from the images, from the audio textbook and the other material. So what I did is that I shared the file in the social medias where the students were connected with me. I told that from where the material for English language could be retrieved. For example, there are a lot of things in British Council pages and American Embassy pages. So I asked them to go through. I shared the link, and students were able to collect a lot of information from there. And the tools that I was using in the initial phase, I also found the students were using those material later on. For example, in the initial phase, I had used SurveyMonkey to get the quizzes or to get the responses from them. And when there was PowerPoint presentation to get their opinion, I found that the students also using the same tools like Quizlet, SurveyMonkeys, and so on. And I would like to talk about Slido. Slido was used when I had to take surprise tests, because I wanted to know what the student had learned or understood about the teaching. So that really helped me to get a lot of information about the teaching and learning. And last thing, what I did is that in English language classroom is, I thought that a student could do a lot of interesting things. As I was telling earlier, they could do remixing and massing up with information. So I told that how they can create the meme or digital poster, postcard, and so on, and how they can combine with other like the information that are available in the internet. So they did a lot of things like digital storytelling and video or images interpretation. What I used to do is that when the student was there for the joining time, I used to play either the audio or the video file so that everybody could come to the classroom. And I found beautiful comments that that were the best songs, or they really enjoyed that part. So I encouraged them to interpret that the videos. I asked them to watch some of the vlogs and do send their writing, and many of them did. And later on, what I also think is that the children have to be aware of the information that are said to be on the internet, and what information are to be shared and which are not shareable. So I also taught them how they can create their position globally, or how they can manage their information. So many of them created their blog pages where they write about their reflection, about the classes, about the creative writing, okay? And many of them also send the article in the newspaper, because as a language teacher, it was very difficult to check their assignment and so on. So I told them, why don't you send your article to the Himalayan Times or the Kathmandu Post? So many of them did send in the school time as a creative writing and so on. So finally, I think these 4 areas were that I focus for enhancing digital literacy, because I believe that just knowing about the digital tools is not the digital literacy, because there are other skills that are connected. The children have to know how to communicate globally, okay, how to create their identity, and how to communicate with different materials. So I did basically this 4 things, and these are the evidences of the success. So you could see these are the I think memes or the poster made by the student. What they have done is that they have collected the picture from the internet, or they have learned to make this from Canva, canva.com, and see their ideas. I think that is very interesting. So most of the time, when they were making a meme, they were very offensive, and I told that, how could you make interesting meme? So you could see the images over here. And second thing is that PowerPoint presentation. You could see the group PowerPoint presentation. Some of the student wrote their blog post, and also just telling story in the virtual platform, or taking part in Thrid. So I'll share the link. I've just taken a snapshot of the.
About 5 minutes left. 5.
Yes, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
These are evidences of like how they took an online assessment. You could see student taking part in slido.com. You could see the result over there, and the below one, left side, the student submitted their written assignment. So it was sent in Gmail. At the time, also we had a problem, about merging the file, splitting the file. When they send the photo file, it was not appropriate. So I taught them, how they could send to the link, or how they could capture. And I think this is one of the sample of objective-based, which is on the right-hand side. And this is the sample of you could see the score that they have received of their quality measures. And finally, I think I did storytelling digitally, or book review. So most of the students took part in book review, where they recorded the video at home and share the book they were reading. So in the future, like what I have a plan is that, like, I'm also involved with the environmental club. So they have done wonderful work. If you see the web page of my school, many of them have done a lot of projects, like digital Sati project, educating the elderly people of the local. Okay, and we also have connected program with like London schools and some of the schools in Nepal. So I want to create my student position globally, that through the activities of English language classroom. We have not in a model this right now. So, but I think that if I could organize, if I could, literate myself digitally more, I think then I can also share the information with the student and showcase different activities with them. So in future, I have a plan to do more project work related to digital literacy, and definitely model the teaching that we have through the school. Right now, what we have been doing is that we are just trying to connect the student with the technology. That how can we transfigure our curriculum with online mode? So these are my future plan that I wanted to work in the future. So I would like to sum up is that how I enhance digital literacy is that actually focusing on information, focusing on student communication, collaboration, and enhancing their creative and critical thinking. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with me. If you have any question, you can drop me the question over there. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Prakash Chaudhary ji. You have done wonderful job. And it's really wonderful presentation. We have shared practical strategies and accessible tools which can be helpful for teachers as well as learners. and especially the teachers who are less familiar with using technology. So that is really great. You have proved a good teacher is a good learner, as well as through your inspiring story. Also, you have shared how your students enhance their creative and critical thinking skills. Indeed, um, your story by enhancing digital literacies in the English language classroom is simply enchanting and true. Indeed, really very well. Thank you so much. And now the question answer session. So floor is open for the audience. So now question answer. Please ask the question to Prakash sir.
Shall I start with a remark, maybe a remark and a question? I mean, today, like, I really enjoyed all the presentations. I mean, like, this pandemic, in my understanding, like in our previous presentation also, like our presenters, they were starting with the issues around, their country's policy. I mean, Bangladesh policy around equitable access to education for all. And I mean, here, my understanding is that this pandemic has created a huge challenge for, around, equitable access to quality education, or at least equitable access to education for all. But at the same time, now I'm very happy to see that, like this pandemic has also created a lot of opportunities for the people like you, who are self-motivated and who have courage to face the challenges. So I really enjoyed that. And yesterday I was reading a paper. In that paper, I mean, the authors, they are making a kind of argument that this pandemic has created a lot of opportunities, and mainly around students support, around, collaboration. So their argument is like it has promoted collaboration among teachers and among students. So my question to Puska sir is like, did you observe, like what kind of support your students are, providing to each other? Did you observe any kind of support among your students?
Thank you.
Maybe during your class, or maybe in your absence, did you observe that kind of?
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that wonderful question. Ma'am, I think let me begin with my initial phase. I think it has been a year we started a remote classes. So when we started, we had a lot of confusion, like how shall we start? Because Zoom was the first time that we were trying, my students were trying. I, as a teacher, had only used that for taking the online training from American Embassy. And so in the initial phase, how we begin is that from simple to complex. I mean, as we had CMS, main course management system, which we were using eSchool eCloud. So that was one of the way to get connected with the parent and the student. So once we shared the information that our class would go remotely, so in the initial phase, there were a few students who joined the classes. And in the initial phase, we had only few classes, like in a day, 1 or 2. And then we had a parents teacher meeting, and there was the participation of a lot of parents, and they also feel that how long we're going to sit like this in the home. So a few days after, we saw the increasing student. But like what kind of support that I got from the student is that, again, I was also not prepared well. I was lacking the digital material. I was simply in the initial phase, I was simply speaking and they got bored. So I could not make the PowerPoint presentation. I had the problem of, digital resources. So first thing is that I divided them in a group. I shared simply a Google Docs, I think, with some of the, I think the link had been shared in the chat box, okay? And finally, they started doing their group work and the presentation. So my classes was running. Next thing is that examination time. During the examination time, as you could see that I have also shared the attendance, like whether they participate in the classroom. There were few, And the study was different. Is the thing is that, why they were not in the classroom is that they were using the cell phone that to do the all activities. So we had to connect with the parent, and immediately they also came for the discussion. So moreover, I think in the initial phase, we had the problem with the getting connection with the student, encouraging them to follow the netiquette that our school had. Okay. So I think students really did a wonderful work by following the instruction, by appearing in the classroom, by helping the teacher to do the PowerPoint presentation, by assisting the teacher by taking the attendance and other lot of group work. There were few students who were unable to join their classes by sending the material for them. I think so. I think I got immense help from the student in the initial phase. And right now, I think I've seen a lot of things, I think, in the chat box, and you could see a lot of group work and so on. So I think moreover is their interest and their willingness. So,
Good, thank you.
So indeed, in my case also same thing. So now Sagan sir is asking you question.
Yeah, more than a question, I have a quick comment, because I'm immensely impressed by the way you have engaged your learners, no doubt. And I took a chance to go through the slides created by students, and they are wonderfully produced. So a quick comment. Sometimes probably it would be helpful for all of us. So I'm just commenting. So it's sometimes what we generally do as teachers is, or what we might do, rather than generally do, sorry, I would say what we might do is we would simply say, okay, just Google it and you will find it, right? And that's a simple assertion. But in your case, what you found is, because you are pretty much aware of this digital literacy, and one of the sub-literacies is filtering literacy, which you highlighted in your presentation as well. You gave them the proper links. You asked them to go through those links. As a result, they might not be diverted as well. Rather, they will be, very much specific to what you are going to teach or what you are intending to teach. And that's really a good job, which I found. So probably it would be helpful for others as well, rather than simply saying, okay, Google it and find the information and just, try to produce something, right? And that's kind of, sometimes like students might get lost when you say simply Google it, you will find enough information there. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm really impressed, Puskar sir. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Saban sir, for that wonderful remark.
Okay, so it is time for us to conclude the session. But before that, I think Sagun Shrestha has shared one Google form in the chat box. So we would like to request everyone to spare some time to fill out the form. You can do it later on as well. We are going to send you the links. Is that Sagun?
Yeah, I have already shared the link. Let me reshare it then, probably. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, in the meantime, yeah, you can continue.
Yeah. So we had, as Saraswati ma'am has said, we had wonderful presentations today. Presentation on pronunciation problems, and Dr. Shahriar Haq shared the story of using tissue technique in order to solve the problem. We also had this presentation on mobile assisted language learning, where how 21st century skills can be taught using mobile assisted language learning. I mean, this has been described by the presenters. Also, we had this idea from Nusrat Guljar regarding how to teach academic writing online and what she has done in order to gain success. And later on, we had this presentation on enhancing digital literacies among the English language learners in the hybrid classrooms. We could learn a lot from all the sessions. So thank you very much, the presenters. Also, we would like to formally thank the participants for giving your time for the session. And now we would like to request you to use the Edmodo group for further discussion. And we would also like to invite you to our next session, which will be held on the 5th of June, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you very much for today. Yeah, Sagun?
Yes, it's not, is it 5th of June or is it 22nd of May?
Okay.
It's 22nd of May.
We'll confirm.
Okay, we will confirm you.
This is on, it's on 22nd of May.
Yeah.
It's 22nd of May, and I think we had another, I mean, we will have another session on the 5th of June.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I got confused.
Yeah.
Sorry for that.
Yeah.
So we would like to invite all of you to our next session. Hopefully everyone will join as well. So thank you very much for today. We are also going to send you email sharing details about the book and also short bio as well as the Google form. So thank you very much for today. Take care and stay safe.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah ma'am.
Yeah, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.